Boy, we have a championship in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Aces get it done. The parade the other day was fantastic. We had Sydney Colson on the show this week. Natalie Williams, who joins us all the time on the show. Love talking to Natalie, the general manager. Man, it's just been so much fun to talk about this. And the lovely lady we have with us on the line right now, the respect the basketball community has for what she's accomplished this year, not just as a coach, but as a player. And what she's accomplished here with the Aces is just, it's incredible. The great Becky Hammon joining us right now on the line, the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. Becky, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Becky, how do you put this into words? Year one, what you've accomplished, winning a championship here, the Commissioner's Cup, Coach of the Year, All-Star head coach, the #1 overall record. I mean, how are you able to even put this into words of what you've accomplished here in Las Vegas in just 1 year?
I don't know if I can right now. I'm still kind of soaking it in. It's weird. Whenever I finish up a season, whether it's with the Spurs as a player, whatever, it's just like, because you're going at like 120 miles an hour pace and then just boom, nothing. It's always weird, kind of the little come down. I feel like, okay, now what am I going to do? Because there's always work to be done, but I don't know if I've truly like let it all sink in.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just been a really special year. We had a really special group. They were so much fun, and so
Yeah.
I'm still pinching myself, but Vegas has quickly come home.
No question. Becky, take me back to a year ago. Obviously, there were a lot of places you could have coached, but you decided to come here and take this job. Tell us why.
I just saw, I saw excellence. I saw and felt what they were building with Nikki Fargas and Mark Davis. And they brought me in last year to retire my jersey. I think it was a setup now. Because I had, I always got calls from the WNBA, and I always just kind of respectfully declined because I felt like I was on a certain path. The fun thing about exploring paths and doing journeys is that you never know where it's going to take you. And it was the right time for me to make this move. And I felt like this was a team that I could push the right buttons with and instill a system that would be successful for them down the road. So it was just not only a huge challenge for me, but it was also just time for me to have a change and a different change of scenery.
Well, it's definitely seemed to have worked out. That's for sure. Everybody knows the great X's and O's coach you are, but a lot of people don't talk enough about the relationships you're able to have with your players, whether it be players from the Spurs. I watched you NBA Summer League win a championship there, and all those players that you coached, nothing but great things to say about you. So here's my question. In this millennial era that we're living in, coaches need to adapt, right? How is it that you're able to develop so many special relationships with players? Could be NBA players, could be Aces players, as a head coach, because that's not an easy thing to do, and some coaches struggle with that.
No, I think the biggest thing for me is just being myself, being authentic in who I am. And you can't force chemistry. You can't force relationship building. You just try to be present. I think you always try to invest more and give more than what you take. And so I kind of just take it into a relationship level. They know I have an open door. They can talk to me. I'm trustworthy. And at the end of the day, I'm honest with them. And I think in a world that throws a lot of crap at them and a lot of BS, I think they appreciate honesty and just the trust factor, because there's so many people, whether you're talking about NBA guys or whatever, just always pulling on them and wanting something from them. And so I just want to truly invest in them as people first and foremost, because I feel like you got to coach the whole person. And I got to know what buttons to push and how to speak to certain people. You can't speak to everybody the same. Not everybody learns the same. So the sooner I kind of get to know them and what makes them tick, I think the better coach I can be for them.
I agree. If you're just joining us, Becky Hammon, head coach, Las Vegas Aces. They are WNBA champions. Becky, two-part question when it comes to Greg Popovich. Number one, what did it mean to you for him to show up, before one of your games and be there for you? And number two, what was the first thing he said to you after you won the championship?
Well, it's funny. He was going to come to my first game, like the very first game of the season, and we ended up having a really bad dust storm, and his plane got
I
canceled. He
remember
called me
that.
so mad. He was so mad, and I was like, "Well, there's good thing is there's going to be more games to come." And so I know he watched basically every game. I was in a lot of communication with him, texting him back and forth. Obviously, we hit that rough stretch in mid-July and late June, mid-July, and I called him, and we talked for about an hour. And so he's just a guy I can always call up and bounce things off of, but obviously means a lot. He did not want to come in the locker room. I basically made him. I drugged him in there. He's like, "What do you want me to say?" I was like, "What you always tell me to do, just be myself." And because he's so much more to these women than just a great basketball coach. He's somebody who truly walks the walk, and really at the end of the day, I get the trailblazing kind of mantle thing, but really he's the guy that knocked it down for all of us women. And made I guess, if you will, a room at the table for us. And he didn't see me as, he just saw me as a great basketball mind and somebody that he wanted to invest in. And he thought I was worth investing. And now he's like, it's funny. He calls, I still pick up the phone so quick. Like he's my boss, like, so paranoid all the time because when he'd call, you better pick up.
That's interesting to me that you guys have hour-long conversations. I would imagine maybe during the year as well, and just X's and O's type basketball conversations. So how often did you do that with him this year?
Well, it's funny because he would call me a lot of times after a loss, and he's like, "I know how it is. Everybody calls you and texts you after a win." He's like, "But I'm going to text you or call you after a loss, because he knows the deal. The phone gets real quiet when you lose. So he's like, "Are you going to win a game? What's going on?" And just harasses me. So, yeah, he's got quite a sense of humor.
I've heard that that's what coaches respect. It's like everyone wants to call you after you win, like what you just said. But I've heard from personal coaches that I know, head coaches at the college level, they want people to call you when you lose, right? I mean, you kind of respect that more, right?
It's all about feel. One of my good friends, Vicky Johnson, we don't even talk if we're going to play. We don't text. We know the deal. And I think coaches know the deal with other coaches. There's times where, you can pick up somebody and razz them or tease them or whatnot. And then there's other times where it's like, yeah, I think I'm not going to call right now,
Right,
because you just know maybe they're not in a great spot mentally or just don't want to talk. Because I think ultimately one thing that me and Pop really have in common is our competitiveness. Mm-hmm. Super ultra competitive people, and so we don't like losing. And so it's kind of funny that he can call me in those moments and kind of like walk me back down off the cliff.
I love that, and I love the fact that you guys have those long conversations and X's and O's, and I just think that's the relationship you guys have. It's so awesome. It's interesting. You mentioned, Becky, about he looked at you as a wonderful basketball mind and a great coach, which you are, which I wish in a perfect world, everybody would think of people like that, regardless of what their gender is, right? Who cares? But do you feel like so many years in the past, there are men in the NBA, maybe still now, look at you as a great female basketball coach instead of just a great coach, which I think is obviously wrong. Do you feel like there are still people that feel that way?
For sure. You're fighting a generational health. It's been going on since the beginning of time. And so, yeah, you're still fighting some of those things. What we got to get over, and I can remember Pop, just saying, people just got to get used to seeing you out there, like, hitting guys and high fiving. And, it got to the point in San Antonio where if I wasn't out on the court, it's kind of like, where's Coach Hammon? And we just have to normalize it to where it's not, oh, if there's a girl out, why is that girl out there on the court, or whatnot. And it's a process. People don't change minds overnight. We still haven't seen a woman put in charge of a men's professional sports team. But more and more we're learning that leadership doesn't have genders. Leadership is about relationship building. It's about team building, foundational things. And at the end of the day, women are doing way more important things than drawing up X's and O's. You got people, leading in wards, leading in operating rooms, leading in courtrooms, being on judges. There's so many more important things that women are doing. And I think sports is kind of the last holdout. And so there's definitely some misogyny just in general, and even maybe more so than in the what I would say like normal populations. But more and more, the more people get in there and understand and respect the knowledge and disregard the gender, the better we'll be. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm not out there trying to score a basket in the NBA game. Like, but there's no reason why my brain and my experiences and my knowledge can't impact the game positively.
Could not agree with you more on that. And your assistant coach, who I know very well, Natalie DeCassi, I believe she was the first female to be on a bench for NBA Summer League. Doc Rivers hired her. She's a wonderful person and a great coach as well. You have a great staff. Becky, what do you think happens first? A female as a head coach of a men's college basketball team or an NBA team? Because it's just a matter of time before it happens. What do you think happens first?
Honestly, I think on the professional level, it can be a little bit cleaner. In the sense of like, here's the money, here's what we can offer you, here's what I can do for you on the court, here's how I plan on winning, and laying that out. I think it gets a little bit wishy-washy. I don't know. Some things in college sports just kind of rub me the wrong way with recruiting and, you know, how it can get down and dirty sometimes.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't happen on the professional level, but at the end of the day, here's the money we can give you. You want to come, you don't want to come. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. I have to ask you this question. Obviously, there are a lot of fans out there that are concerned in a good way for you, but they're concerned. They're like, well, Becky, look at what she's accomplished in her career. It's just a matter of time before the NBA starts calling. I know that's not on your mind right now, and it shouldn't be, but I have to ask you this question. If the NBA calls, I would imagine if it's the right situation for you, you'd probably take the job. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll let you answer it, because there are let me ask it like this. There are fans out there that are worried that we're going to lose you eventually. What would you say to those fans that are saying, gosh, Becky, it's just a matter of time before we lose her to the NBA? What would you say to them?
Well, I'm not going anywhere right now. As for the future, I can't speak for the future. I'm somebody who I kind of just march to my own beat. I'm going to do what's best for my family. I'm going to do what I think is best for my career. I mean, there were so many people that told me not to make this move, and it ends up being one of the best moves I've ever made. So I'm enjoying this team. I love this team. I care about this team. I love being in Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas. So I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. That's not to say in 5, 10 years, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many years, but it would have to be the right situation. In front of the right people. And like I said, you know, I left the NBA and I was close, you know, in some situations. And I told them the same thing. Like, look, in some ways it feels like it could be next year. In other ways, it feels like it could be 10 years from now. Yeah. It's about the right fit, the right organization, and the right fit for me personally, not just from their standpoint as well. So, you know, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, though.
Well, I know there's a lot of Aces fans that are, and myself, by the way, very happy to hear that. But do you ever go and think ahead of yourself at all and say, wow, one day that will probably happen? It's the word historic and you're setting a foundation for other women. You already have done that in so many different ways. But do you ever think ahead of yourself a little bit and think, wow, one day I could be coaching an NBA basketball team. It's a matter of time, and the pathway and the history of that day and what you will feel like?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I've learned is one to like never say never. Like I've said, like you just can't say it because how sometimes the journey plays out isn't always the way you envisioned it in your head. You know, last year I came in and I worked with Plum on some of her finishing. You know, a month and a half, 2 months later, they bring me in, they retire my jersey. It didn't even cross my mind.
Really?
Not for 2 seconds. Not even for 2 seconds that I would come back and coach these ladies. Wow. Didn't even cross my mind. So I can't sit there and say, oh, I'll never go back to WNBA. I never said that. But at the same time, I knew I was on a certain path, right? But then all of a sudden your paths can change, and now you're reevaluating. You're looking at things a little bit differently. And so for me, you know, when I started to dig into this team a little bit, and Nikki reached out and I talked to Mark Davis, I was like, man, how can I not be a part of this? This is special. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to be a part of. And it's about being a part of something bigger than yourself. Yeah. But what I've learned, you got to be present in the moment. And I don't, you know, I never planned on playing for Russia, but look, it happened.
Right.
Like,
right.
I go where I'm wanted. And I go to where the doors are open to me.
Sure.
And, Las Vegas, like I said, has quickly grown on me. But I've been coming here since college. It's crazy. I was telling my friend that the other day. I played in the WAC, and we had, my sophomore, junior, and senior year, we played our tournaments here.
Right.
At UNLV. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Isn't this a great basketball town? Of course, one of my good friends, Anderson Hunt, part of the national championship UNLV team. There's a lot of basketball history, right? I guess I have to ask you this, even though you don't control it. When are we getting an NBA team? It seems to me, Becky, that, right, it's just a matter of time. This is a basketball city. You know that. I actually thought the NBA, I've been in this town 20 years, Becky. I always thought the NBA would be the first professional team we would get, even before the WNBA. I just think it's a matter of time. What do you think?
I agree. This is the biggest sports town in the world now. It's not, I don't think it's New York anymore. It's moved here. And I know there's so many people, from California here. It's a worldwide destination. And it's been basketball crazy for a while now, going back, Tarkanian days. Mm-hmm. Those are legendary, some of those recruiting stories. So, I think it's just a matter of time. And as you can see, this city's hungry for it. And we're certainly happy to be the basketball team of Las Vegas.
Yeah. Couple more quick questions for you, Becky, and we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. I just want to go back to the Aces for a moment here, because, you think of poignant, points in the season or in the playoffs, and I'm thinking when you guys are on the road, right? Game 3 against Seattle, the series is tied 1-1. You're literally 2 seconds away from being down 2-1 in that series. And, the play you draw up and the Jackie Young, the shot that you couldn't ask for a better look at the hoop. That game to me, and that moment in that game to me, is one of the more poignant moments of the season. Would you agree with that? Because that you guys could have been looking down 2-1 on the road in Seattle.
Yeah, that obviously was a huge turn of events. I would say, that series there was one of the toughest series I've ever been a part of in any league at any time. The level of basketball, the skill level was, it was shot makers. There's one thing to take big shots, but to continually make big shots on both sides of the ball. Really, you had Sue Bird, Stewie on the other side, just taking and making huge shots. Like it was just extremely high skill level, IQ level game. And, luckily for us, we ended up on the right side of it. But that was, we're not sitting there without winning that game. We don't even make it to the finals.
Yeah. Obviously coaches have to draw up plays, and I love what you did with Asia Wilson, giving her spacing there and letting her go. And then I would imagine Jackie Young wasn't the only option on that play, right? But the look she had, you couldn't ask for anything better than that, right?
Yeah. Well, going into a game, you kind of know what teams are doing defensively and offensively end of game, because it does switch up with different scenarios. We actually made a mistake letting Sue Bird get up. That was our mistake. Mm-hmm. She ends up breaking loose and hitting that 3, but that should have never happened.
Right.
So it's a game of up and downs. But just to have consecutive big shot, just dagger for dagger, was super special. Yeah. And honestly, in those moments, I don't know, you just react. You're not even, I don't know, you just become kind of numb to the situation.
Sure.
And just, you try, here's where I have a huge advantage though, is, one play I drew up for Raquana, the next play was for Asia, the next play was for Jackie. Having those different options. And I will say this, the number one hardest thing about all those plays is actually getting the ball inbounded, which is, I have a great inbounder in Chelsea Gray. Mm. She understands clock, she understands angles, and she understands who the play is run for and the timing of everything. And I'll say that's one thing, that's a skill set that was really special to this group, that, I could draw something that they had never seen, and they kind of got it.
Yeah.
And ran it in the way that it should be ran. And so that's a kudos to those
Sure.
women, just being locked in those big time moments.
Yeah. You're no stranger to winning, whether it be at the high school level as a player or at the college level, coaching at the NBA level. or the NBA Summer League where you won a championship. What is the feeling and what has it been like, maybe a comparison to winning a WNBA championship, first in the franchise history here, to all the other championships and all the winning you've done at the basketball level, player, coach in your life?
Well, I'll say, for me, it's the highest high. Just the situation. I mean, obviously there was a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes on me. And it was like, when that buzzer went off, I was like, I don't know if I'm more relieved or happy, because there's the pressure is real. I mean, 12 to 14 inches slide over on the bench is a big adjustment. We lost that game 3, and I watched film till about 3. I was up at 6 watching film again, and you just start racking your brain and figuring out a game plan. And, I'm sitting there just pacing, waiting for my assistants to get up so that I can roll it over with them. So it's super special to me. And the fact that it was in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't know my journey was going to take me to the NBA. It never crossed my mind when I was a player. Oh, I'm going to go coach in the NBA.
Right.
It just kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
And then, obviously getting to learn under Coach Pop was huge, but 24 years for me as a player or a coach in the WNBA and NBA combined. This first one, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
So, Becky, I don't think a lot of people know that detail, that you lose a basketball game, and this goes to your competitiveness. You alluded to it earlier. You're up till 3 a.m. looking at film. You get 3 hours of sleep, and then you're back up at 6 a.m. and you're waiting for your staff to get there so you can talk more about the film. Is that a normal occurrence for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't sleep much anyways, but it wasn't just that game specifically. It wasn't just the loss. It was the way we lost was
right.
really bothersome to me. And so, I had called a staff meeting at a certain time, and then when I ended up getting up at 6, I need them to get some sleep too.
Sure.
So I was just like, when you guys are up and ready, like if you can get down here earlier than the original time, let's do that. Because I'm down here pacing like a freaking lion, going back and forth on these whiteboards, figuring out what we were going to do for game 4.
Yeah.
And I really had it narrowed down. But then I want to kind of hammer in the main adjustments and the main points that we wanted to hit on with the team. Because, you get a day or two to make adjustments.
Right.
But then your team has to go out there and be able to execute it. So you can't entirely reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
But I felt like there were 2 or 3 things that we could definitely do different that would help us pull out a win in that game 4.
Yeah, you won the physical battles. You made it more difficult on Connecticut to score. You came out much better defensively, and you won those physical battles. You played like a team that your back was against the wall, and that's why you won the game. I guess one of my last questions for you would be, I grew up in Connecticut, Becky, and obviously the UConn women, one of the most storied college franchises. I'm still not a huge Connecticut fan because I've lived in Vegas for 20 years, and there's so much fun here. So I always, after seeing my family in Connecticut, I miss my family, but I kind of like coming back to Vegas. I would imagine that flight that you guys took, because there's not a lot of stuff to do in Uncasville, Connecticut. And I know you guys are all business, obviously. You're not there to have fun. But that flight coming back from Connecticut to Vegas must have been a lot of fun, right?
Oh, I mean, if you follow our ladies on social media, you can see they are not short on fun. Pretty much everywhere they go turns into a good time. But I'm sure you didn't know this. My parents actually grew up in Connecticut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They were high school sweethearts. They went to Wyndham High School.
Sure.
They were the Wyndham Whippets.
Yeah.
And so I still have my grandparents there, a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins. So I had obviously a ton of family in town, or in the area, I should say, to come to the game. But yeah, that plane was lit. And they should enjoy the heck out of it.
Sure.
They worked really, really hard for it. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's, we had a message that, delayed does not mean denied. And, that was kind of the deal for the whole team. And it was just kind of fun to see everybody's journey kind of culminate at the same time, into a really special season, capped off with a championship.
Well, Coach, congratulations. I've said this all year. I mean, what a wonderful franchise, from the coaching staff to your players and Mark Davis and everybody around the Aces. You guys are just wonderful people. You're easy to root for. I wouldn't say that about every team in this town. You guys are just so easy to root for. You're role models. and what you've done with this team. I know you're a very modest person, but obviously there's a lot of people proud of you and what you've been able to accomplish, as well as all the ladies and everybody. So I just want to say thank you for coming on, and we're proud of what you guys have been able to accomplish. It's been a fun ride, and I know you guys are not done yet. I know you guys have alluded to that. You want to make this a dynasty, and I have no doubt that you will. It seems like everything you do, Becky, is successful, and this year is a perfect example of that. Thank you so much, Coach, for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you, and hope to have you on again sometime down the road. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That is Becky Hammon. Boy, what a class act. What a phenomenal basketball coach. What a good person. I don't think people realize how difficult it is, what she has done. She has broken barriers as a